In 2020, airlines were broke, planes grounded, billions gone. To survive, they mortgaged the one thing still worth something, not the planes. Their miles, worth more than the entire airline. An airline is secretly a bank. Let's start with something that sounds insane. Flying you across the country barely makes them any money. In 2019, the best year the industry ever had, the average airline made about $7.75 of profit per passenger. $7. That's not enough to buy a Big Mac in Switzerland. You paid hundreds for that ticket. After fuel, crew, the plane, the gate, the taxes, they keep the price of a coffee. Where does all your ticket money go? A huge slice is jet fuel, the single biggest cost, and the price swings wildly month to month. Then salaries for pilots, crew, mechanics, then the planes themselves, which cost hundreds of millions of dollars each. Airport fees, government taxes. By the time the dust settles, the airline is fighting over pennies on every seat. It's a brutal, low-margin grind. And it gets worse. Almost every major U.S. airline has gone bankrupt, some of them twice. Warren Buffett once joked that if a capitalist had been there at Kitty Hawk, he should have shot the plane down to save future investors their money. One storm, one recession, one virus, and the whole thing tips into the red. As a way to move metal through the sky, this is one of the worst businesses on Earth. So here's the puzzle. If flying barely breaks even, why are these companies worth a fortune? Why do banks line up to lend them billions? The answer is that the airline you think you know, the one with planes and pilots, is a disguise. Bolted onto the side of it is a second company, a money machine. And that machine prints its own currency. Meet the real product. It's not a seat, it's this, a mile, a point. And here's the trick. A mile doesn't exist in the world. There's no warehouse of miles, no vault of miles. The airline creates them the instant it wants to by typing a number into your account. From nothing. Out of thin air. That's not a rewards program. That's a printing press. Think about what a central bank does. It prints a currency no one else can copy. It decides how much that currency is worth. And it can make more whenever it likes. Now look at an airline. It prints miles nobody else can issue. It decides how many miles a flight costs and changes that whenever it wants. It can mint 1 billion more tomorrow. An airline isn't running a loyalty program. It's running its own private economy, and it's the central bank. And this currency is enormous. Back in 2005, The Economist counted around 14 trillion frequent flyer miles sitting in accounts worldwide, worth roughly $700 billion. That was more than all the US dollar bills in circulation at the time. By 2018, McKinsey put the pile at 30 trillion unredeemed miles. Let that sink in. One of the biggest currencies on Earth is printed by airlines, and you can only spend it on them. It all started by accident. May 1st, 1981, American Airlines launches AAdvantage, the first modern frequent flyer program. The idea was simple. Reward people who fly a lot, so they keep coming back. They even seeded it by digging through their reservation system for repeat customers. Nobody in that room realized what they'd actually built. Not a marketing gimmick, a currency. One that 40 years later would be worth more than the airline itself. The idea spread like wildfire. Within a few years, every airline on Earth was printing its own miles. United, Delta, Lufthansa, Emirates, Qantas. A whole shadow economy appeared, with its own exchange rates, its own inflation, its own black markets. But all of it ran into the same wall, because a printed currency has one fatal weakness. A currency is worthless unless someone actually wants it. The airline could mint trillions of miles, and if nobody paid real money for them, it'd just be printing monopoly cash. So the real genius was never the printing press. It was finding someone with deep pockets who would buy those miles, buy the billion, in cold hard cash. And that someone is not you. Here's the move that turns a printing press into a fortune. The airline walks into a real bank, Chase, American Express, Citi, and sells them miles, in bulk, upfront, for cash. The bank pays around 1.5 to 2 cents for every single mile. Then the bank stamps those miles onto a credit card with the airline's logo and hands it to you. The airline already got paid, in real dollars, before you ever booked a flight. But why would a bank pay billions for points an airline invented? One word: swiping. Every time you use a credit card, the store pays a fee, usually 1 to 3% of the purchase, and most of that goes to your bank. That's how banks really make money, not on interest, on swipe fees. So a card that makes you want to swipe constantly is a goldmine. And nothing makes people swipe like chasing miles. Remember that giant sign-up bonus? Get 100,000 miles. Feels like a gift, right? It's not. When you signed up, the bank paid the airline roughly $1,500 in cash for those miles. You were never the customer in that deal. You were the product being delivered, a fresh, high-spending wallet handed from the airline to the bank with 100,000 miles tied around you like a bow. And it never stops at sign-up. Every time you swipe that card, groceries, gas, a coffee, the bank skims its fee and shares a slice back with the airline. Your morning latte? The airline just made money. Your weekly shopping? Money. Your rent, if you can put it on a card? Money. You don't have to fly anywhere. The airline earns more from your spending on the ground than from flying you through the sky. These card deals are so valuable that banks go to war over them. When an airline's contract comes up, Amex, Chase, Citi, and Barclays bid against each other for the right to be the airline's card, and the price keeps climbing. Delta's deal with American Express has been renewed and expanded again and again because both sides are printing money. The airline gets billions in cash. The bank gets millions of premium spenders. You get a slightly bigger sign-up bonus. How big is this? Delta, just from its American Express deal, collected $6.8 billion in 2023. By 2025, $8.2 billion. That single credit card partnership is now more than 10% of Delta's entire revenue. And here's the stat that breaks your brain. Roughly 1% of all consumer spending in the United States runs through Delta's credit cards. 1 cent of every dollar Americans spend touches an airline. Now you understand why they push the card so hard. The email offers. The pop-ups when you book. The flight attendant who, mid-flight, picks up the microphone to pitch you a credit card at 35,000 feet. That's not an airline selling seats. That's a bank using a captive audience, strapped into chairs, to sign up new cardholders. The cabin is a sales floor, so ask it again. Who is the real customer? It was never you, the passenger. The real customer is the bank, paying billions for a currency the airline prints for free. And you? You're not the buyer. You're the unpaid sales force, swiping a card to keep the whole machine fed. The flight is just the bait that gets you in the door. For years, all of this stayed hidden in plain sight. Then 2020 happened. The world shut down. Planes parked in the desert by the hundreds. Airlines burning tens of millions of dollars a day, staring straight at bankruptcy. They needed cash, fast, and they needed to borrow it, which means they needed collateral, something valuable to put up as a guarantee. So what does a broke airline actually own that's worth something? Not the planes. They're grounded, and nobody wants to buy a used jet in the middle of a pandemic. Not the terminals. They don't own those. The single most valuable thing they could put on the table was the loyalty program, the miles. And when the bankers opened the books to appraise it, even Wall Street was stunned by what they found. United pledged its Mileage Plus program as collateral and put a number on it, about $22 billion. Now hold that up against the airline itself. At the time, the entire equity value of United Airlines, every plane, every gate, every employee, the brand, all of it, was about $10.5 billion. The frequent flyer program was worth more than twice the whole airline that flew you around. The bank inside was bigger than the airline outside, and it wasn't just United. American had its AA Advantage program appraised at somewhere between $18 and $30 billion, while the entire airline was worth under $7 billion. The loyalty program was roughly 4 times the company it lived inside. All 3 big U.S. airlines borrowed $5 to $10 billion each, backed by miles. The planes were the excuse. The miles were the asset. And look at the lengths they went to. To borrow against the miles, airlines literally carved the loyalty program out into a separate company, with its own accounts and its own structure, just so it could be pledged to lenders. They surgically removed the bank from inside the airline and held it up to the market and said, "Lend against this. It's the valuable part." They weren't hiding it anymore. And this is the part I love. They told us. Right there, in legal documents filed with regulators, airlines admitted in black and white that the financial machine bolted to the side was worth more, far more, than the airline itself. For one brief moment, the disguise slipped all the way off. And almost nobody noticed. If you think this is just an American trick, look at Australia. Qantas runs one of the most profitable loyalty programs on the planet. And during the pandemic, when the whole airline was bleeding, the Qantas loyalty division was the only part of the entire company that turned a profit. The planes lost a fortune. The points machine made money. The bank kept the airline alive. Air Canada learned the lesson the hard way. Years ago, it spun off its loyalty program, Aeroplan, and sold it. Then it watched that program print money for someone else and bought the whole thing back for hundreds of millions of dollars. Why pay a fortune to repurchase a reward scheme? Because by then, everyone in the industry understood the truth. You never, ever give away the bank. From United to Qantas, to Emirates to Lufthansa, the playbook is now identical. Print a currency, sell it to a bank, let the cards subsidize the flying. Every major airline on Earth is quietly running the same financial engine behind the same disguise. It is, without exaggeration, one of the most successful business models in modern history, and it's hiding behind a drink cart. Now let's come back to those miles sitting in your account. You treat them like savings, a little stash of value you're building up for a big trip someday. But here's the uncomfortable truth. It's a currency, and you don't control a single thing about it. The company that prints it decides what it's worth, and they are absolutely not on your side. Watch what they do. A flight that cost 25,000 miles last year quietly costs 40,000 this year. The plane didn't change. The seat didn't change. They simply decided your miles are worth less. Overnight, without warning, without asking. That's inflation. Except a government can't choose to inflate away your savings on a random Tuesday because it feels like it. An airline can, and does, constantly. It used to be that every program published an award chart, a fixed price list, so you knew exactly what your miles were worth. So airlines killed the chart. United doesn't even publish one anymore. Now the price of a flight in miles floats, changing day to day, with no published rate and no notice. They turned your savings account into a currency with a secret, shifting exchange rate that only they can see, and these aren't small. When United quietly devalued, the cost of its cheapest awards jumped by an average of over 30%. Turkish Airlines nearly tripled the miles needed to fly to Hawaii, from 10,000 to 25,000 overnight. Avianca raised some prices 20% with no warning at all. Every one of those was your savings, losing value while you slept, and there was nothing you could do. And then there's the quietest profit of all. Miles expire. Leave your account inactive too long and poof, they're gone. Tens of millions of people let miles vanish every single year. The industry even has a cold little word for it: breakage. The airline already got paid real cash for those miles by the bank. Then you never use them. So they collect twice and deliver nothing. It's the closest thing to free money that exists. It's so reliable that they bake it right into their accounting. When an airline sells miles, it can't book all the cash as profit immediately. It has to set some aside as a liability, money it might owe you in flights later. But they also estimate the chunk you'll never claim and quietly count that as revenue. In other words, they are literally booking your forgetfulness as income on the official financial statements. So why do we keep playing along? Status. Silver, gold, platinum, diamond. A ladder they invented with a carrot dangling at the very top. Once you're close to the next tier, you'll book the worst flight, fly the long way, and put every purchase on their card just to keep a rank that exists only inside their computer. It's sunk cost psychology turned into a leash. The miles were never the reward. You are the one being trained. If you still think the flying is the real business, here's 2024. That year, loyalty money swung Delta from a 2.5% operating loss to a 10.5% profit. Read that again. And it's not just Delta. Analysts found that not a single major U.S. airline would have turned a profit in 2024 without the money from miles and cards. The flying lost money. The bank carried them. Every single one. So what is an airline really? It's a financial company that issues a currency, sells it to banks, and runs an airline on the side, mostly to give that currency somewhere to be spent. The flights make the miles feel valuable. The valuable miles sell the credit cards. The credit cards make the money. The plane is just the most expensive marketing department in the world. So flip the whole thing around. The airline isn't a transport company with a credit card on the side. It's a credit card company with planes on the side. The flights aren't the product. They're the advertisement. They exist to make the miles feel real, so you'll chase them, earn them, and swipe for them. The plane is the billboard. The bank is the business. So what do you do with this? Simple. Stop treating miles like money in the bank, because they're a currency designed to lose value, controlled by someone who profits when you forget. If you earn them, burn them. Don't hoard. Book the trip. Because in a game where the house prints the chips, sets the prices, and changes the rules whenever it likes, the longer you hold, the more you lose. And be honest about what's really happening every time you earn miles. You're not getting a reward. You're being paid, in a currency they print for free and can devalue at will, to act as an unpaid salesperson, generating swipe fees for a bank with a logo painted on the tail. Flying barely makes a dime. The miles are the empire. So the next time you watch a plane climb into the sky, remember what you're really looking at. Not an airline. A bank with wings. If you want more on how the world actually runs on money, subscribe. This is Priced, the hidden economics of everything.